One of my favorite quotes, in fact, I loved it so much, I printed it out, framed it, and hung on the wall in my office right there, goes like this: decide what your life wants to be, and then say no to everything else that is not that. In this podcast episode, I interviewed Lindsey Corbin, the founder and CEO of Delegate.Legal. As the name suggests, her company helps busy attorneys who specialize in trademark and copyright law outsource their busy work, specifically work that should be handled by paralegals, to them so that they take over a tremendous amount of busy work that most lawyers do not love to do. Now, you may not be in the trademark or copyright law space, and that's okay. You should still listen to the episode to understand how outsourced paralegals can tremendously free up your time so that you could focus on more higher priority, higher value tasks, so that it would help you grow your business and enjoy the life that you actually want to have without focusing on the things that are not there. Enjoy the episode. Hi there. I have a small but really meaningful favor to ask you. I watch at the stats on our YouTube channel and Spotify channel, wherever most people listen and watch our podcast. And I see that over 80% of everybody who listens to it regularly is not a subscriber. I'm asking you to subscribe to this channel. And the reason for that is my mission and the mission of my team is to help as many small law firm owners to learn how to transform their law firms into better businesses, and so they in turn enjoy better lives. When you hit subscribe button, you tell these platforms that this is content worth listening, worth viewing, and they in turn will show it to many other small law firm owners and hopefully help me fulfill our mission of helping them create a better business and enjoy better lives. So would you please do me this favor? It would mean the world to me, and hit the subscribe button. And my promise to you is that I will continue to work hard at creating good content with practical ideas that help you and your teams grow better law firms. Thank you. Welcome to another GLF podcast episode. I have a tremendous guest with me here today, Lindsey Corbin of Delegate.Legal. Love the name. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Let's see, your bio. I think you started working as a paralegal 16 years ago, 12 years ago. It's been a while.
It's been a while. I think this is my 20th year actually of being a paralegal, starting out in a tiny firm and growing.
So you were a kid when you started out in this world?
I was.
A kid. And for the last 5 years, since the beginning of the pandemic, somewhere thereabout, you've started Delegate.Legal, which is a very narrow specialty. Paralegal, what do you call it? Like a support firm where you help?
So a virtual paralegal firm.
Virtual paralegal firm
is what we call it. We specialize in trademarks and copyrights, and then we assist in other practice areas, but trademarks and copyrights are our main focus.
I love it. I will tell a quick story. So, which will make it connect for people who are listening to this or watching this episode. My business partner and I, we have multiple business advisors. For different reasons, their strengths lie in different aspects of business. So the guy, Alex, who I consider to be our top advisor, incredibly successful guy. In his 50s, ran multiple businesses. At the height of it, he had 18,000 employees across businesses that he had owned, either partially or fully. And somewhat recently, his wife and I and my wife were having a dinner, and we were talking about something, and he was like, "Why do you do that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just this is what I do." And he's like, "But you just said you don't love it." And I'm like, "So?" He's like, "I don't do anything that I don't love." I'm like, "Anything?" And he's like, "Yeah, if I don't love it, I delegate it." I'm like, "Seriously?" And he's like nothing. He's like, "I'm too old to do anything that I don't love."
Yep.
And I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, but the guy has 18,000. He doesn't have 18,000 employees, but he has thousands of employees now across multiple businesses. And he is like fractional CEO in multiple businesses. And some place he is just the chairman. So he doesn't actually like work.
Just the chairman.
Just the chairman. But it means that he only works like a few hours a month in those businesses. But then he is like a fractional CEO across different businesses. Very successful guy. And my first thought was like very negative. And he's like, yeah, he can do that because he's so successful. And then my second thought was like, no, that's wrong. He can do that because he is that successful because that's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just doesn't do anything that he doesn't love, and he only loves things where he is the best.
I would argue he also probably can be so successful because he's put systems in place that help him be that successful.
For sure. Well, he didn't. He usually delegates system creation
There you go.
also
Yep.
because he's one guy,
Uh-huh.
multiple businesses, very smart, very experienced. But like you don't have time to put together a system. Like why would you put together systems if you can delegate it? That's why like when I saw the name of your company, I'm like Delegate.Legal. I'm like, cool.
Yep.
That makes sense to me. Like deep in my heart, I know that you cannot grow anything substantial. And even if you do, like there's just not enough time in our lives like to do the things that just don't want to do. I'm not really
Right.
talking about the financial aspect of it. So how
Right.
how did the idea of like starting this company come to you?
So that's a great question. During the summer of 2020, when everyone was working from home, I was as well. And it really was a bit by chance. I received a phone call from a colleague in the trademark space who said, we have a trademark attorney based in Chicago who could really use some paralegal support. Do you have any bandwidth? And I said, well, I'm working from home. At this point, I was in private equity and I wasn't really doing trademark law in that world. I was working on a whole lot of other areas. And so I thought, I definitely have the time. We're all home. I can help out. And so I just started helping this one client, this one solo practitioner in the Chicago area. And then after I got up to speed, started working on all of his stuff, I started just spending more time online and finding several small firms. I found a Facebook group to join. And a lot of these attorneys were newer to trademark law. It seems like when the pandemic hit, practice areas were up for grabs, right? So attorneys who had never practiced trademark law in their life were suddenly now learning and wanting to practice in the trademark space and not really knowing what they were doing. And here I was, a 15-year senior paralegal with a ton of trademark experience. And so I just started to think, okay, well, I can probably help a lot of you and help your clients, reduce your office actions, respond to the office actions you're already going to get, those sorts of things. And so I just joined a Facebook group and I really didn't get a ton of traction that first summer. I had a few things here and there, but most of these attorneys, my remembering it, thinking about it now, I think they thought it was a little bit of too good to be true. Why was this senior paralegal not working at a firm, not working in-house, not doing these other things? And here I was able to help. And so I slowly but surely started getting a few clients and was able to leave the private equity world to do this full time in October of 2020. And it was great.
3 months later.
Yeah.
That's very, very quick.
Yes.
I guess the quality of your work spoke for itself. Thus, you were able to scale up what is a new business so quickly.
So I was able to scale quickly just by word of mouth. My name got out very quickly. I think I brought on my first contractor in November of 2020, if I recall, to help out, ironically, with systems. Because at that point, I was able to do all the work. So I was efficient enough. I also, taking a step aside, I also priced myself at a premium price point for the work that I was providing. At that time, I was priced 2 times, if not 3 times higher than other paralegals who were also in the freelance space. And so that also helped. But at that point, I was able to do a lot of the paralegal work myself, and I just needed somebody who could run the system, who could handle the billing, who could make the workflow easier so I didn't lose track of deadlines. And that was a genius first move for me. She's still with me to this day. She's a full-time employee now. And I've since taught her trademark law. I've basically crafted her into a trademark paralegal that can now do all the things for our clients. And she keeps everything on track. So without her, I'm not sure it would have survived, but she did all of that out of the gate.
But you actually practiced what you preached, because
I did.
Delegate.Legal, and you ended up delegating to your first employee who you hired a month into actually operating the business, which is also very unusual. Good for you.
Yeah, the first thing I did, so this is the second business I've actually owned. The first one was always a small consulting company. It was only ever just me. But I learned from that experience what my weaknesses were. And bookkeeping and accounting and the financials, not my strong suit, which is okay. But I learned, when I started this business, straight away, you got to get a bookkeeper. You have to get somebody who can manage this part for you. So the bookkeeper and then the operations person really were the main two things. And then I was able to continue to do the paralegal work. And then I would bring on contractors in the paralegal space. I've scaled up and scaled down, ironically, many times over the last 5 years, depending on workload and what we need.
For your clients, I always think about when a business, and ultimately it's businesses who consume your services. For your clients and for any other business that consumes professional services, typically there are one of three reasons why they choose to buy. It's either this will help me increase revenue, A, or B, this will help me cut costs, or C, this will help me expand my market share. For most law firms, the market share comes off the plate because they don't care about that. So it's either this will free up my time so that I can increase my revenue, or this will drive down my costs. When law firms reach out to you, when lawyers reach out to you, what's the driving factor, like the main driving factor, why they want to consume your services?
So we see mainly two different reasons. One is they have managed to just hit the mother load of clients of their own and they need help managing them. So they suddenly have a ton of clients that have come in the door and they need to get help with their searches, their applications, whatever. So that's usually the first bucket. The second bucket that we have are clients who have a successful practice, but they just don't want to manage it as much themselves anymore. They want to take a step back. Running a solo law firm or a small law firm comes with a fair amount of operations headache. And IP in particular, managing deadlines is very specific. And malpractice insurance is very high in the IP space because if you drop a deadline, you can't really fix it. And so you have to be really careful with managing your deadlines. So we get clients who've been in the field for 15, 20, 30 years, but they're ready to take a breather and they just want to oversee, they just want to step into a managerial role of their own practice. So they're still the supervising attorney. They know what they're doing, but we can help them with docketing. So deadline management, reporting to their clients, responding to client inquiries, all these things that they just want to go and take a breather. They want to be able to pop out of the office at 2:00 and just monitor email without having to be in the weeds. And then every once in a while, we'll get a client who's new to the trademark space and they want to get better. And so I will frequently step into a educational type role where I will teach them how to become a better trademark lawyer, how to look at things through a different lens, how to work within the USPTO systems, and how they can communicate to their client more effectively to get the best outcome for their client.
So 3 categories. Really busy, need to delegate some of this work because we just don't have the capacity to do this. The second category is not that busy and want to get less busy, so I'm going to delegate some of this. And the third category is very new to this. I need help navigating the field so that I can get better in the shortest amount of time possible.
Yes.
For category A, and this is just the way that I think about it. So I have a sizable team. We have 93, 94 employees as of the time of this recording, May 2025. Whenever you may be watching it, we might be a lot larger, small, I don't know. We routinely bring in contractors. We
Mm-hmm.
delegate things out, not in, but out, when it comes to a skill set that we do not routinely need.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go to like Upwork. And for example, I needed to run a complex statistical model to analyze our growth trajectory, to understand how much more can we invest into our marketing, what makes sense and what doesn't. And so it is something that was just one-time project. Maybe we'll
Mm-hmm.
go back to that decision again, maybe not, but so I would outsource that or delegate that because it's one time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we'll need like we don't design documents. I'll find a
Mm-hmm.
document designer who will may need like 2, 3 times a year. When it comes to category A, law firms that get really busy, does it make sense for them to like continually outsource it to you? And if it does, why? Like, what's the efficiency of doing it as outsource job rather than or as outsource projects? I don't know how to refer it. Rather than bringing it in house and doing it in house.
My experience is the lawyers and the firms that do this aren't typically comfortable with their ongoing intake model, I guess. Maybe that's not the way to say it, but they're not confident that they will always have the same amount of work all the time. And they are nervous about
Ah,
adding the additional
fixed
overhead,
expenses, sure. Yeah.
fixed expense. Versus we offer a flat fee monthly pricing for all in services. So we have a couple different pricing models, but the one that these particular firms love is a monthly all in subscription where you know what you're going to pay us every single month. So when you're doing your budgeting, you know how to add in the cost for us without worrying that your rate's going to go up or down, or that if somehow the work faucet turns off, you can reduce us very quickly rather than having to worry about the overhead on your payroll.
Oh, that makes so much sense. I am in huge favor of not having fixed expenses if you do not
Mm-hmm.
have to. Like those 93, 94 employees, including myself and my business partner that I mentioned, those are the people that we have to deliver the work that we
Mm-hmm.
promise to our clients. So anyone that we do not have to have, we'll do exactly that. Delegate it,
Mm-hmm.
outsource it, not have it on our payroll. That makes great sense. I also am just fascinated how much things have changed in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Like today
Yeah.
you can delegate or not own, not pay for regular for so many things. Like you want a second home, you don't have to buy it anymore.
Right.
You want a second car, you don't have to buy it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You want an additional employee, you do not have to put them on payroll anymore. And it's just things are so scalable. And I assume you do not have like long-term contracts with your clients.
We do not have long-term contracts. We've been very fortunate that we have a lot of long-term clients. But our business model, the business model that I created, was set up for we're here when you need us and we're not when you don't. And it's risky. I get it. But again, we've been really fortunate to have some very long-term clients who absolutely consider us part of their practice. And it just works.
Makes sense. I assume that by delegating some of the routine work, it helps them open up time to do things that may carry significantly higher yield on their time, like focusing on growing the business is
Mm-hmm.
much more valuable than doing just routine paperwork.
Yes. I mean, one of the things when a new client, so we do a couple things. One of the things that we have a new product that we're launching, and it's called Delegate.Legal Law Firm in a Box. And part of it is setting up all these systems, but more importantly, we ask our clients, what do you love to do? If you've got 8 things on your plate of projects that you have to do on a daily basis to be a business owner, to be a lawyer, what do you love? If there are 2 or 3 things that you love, then keep doing them.
Yeah.
But if there are 5 or 6 things that you hate, delegate them. Be it to us or someone else. We're not going to do your bookkeeping. So if you want to delegate that, we're happy to help you find someone. But for everything else, you can delegate it. And then you can spend your time doing what you love, which will ultimately make you more productive. Because why would you do it if you don't love it? To your earlier point. So if you can do that and you can delegate it, then do it. And that's what we're here for.
Interesting. I always think about like your daily workload, if you were to put on a GoPro, like on your forehead or on your chest, and just
Mm-hmm.
record what you do for 2 typical days,
Mm-hmm.
not one day, but 2 typical days, I feel like that's a sample size. That's enough time to see where you
Mm-hmm.
actually spend your time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I'm sure there's going to be an AI soon that's going to help you actually like categorize everything that you worked on over those 2 work days.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could like sort those tasks that you perform by dollar per hour buckets. And there are
Mm-hmm.
some tasks that you do as a law firm owner or as a practicing attorney that are worth
Mm-hmm.
like you could outsource them to somewhere else on this planet and they will cost you like $5.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some tasks that you cannot send them somewhere else on the planet. You have to do them here with well
Mm-hmm.
qualified people, and they will cost you like 50, 60, 70, maybe $100. And there are
Mm-hmm.
some tasks that you could outsource and they will cost you 100 to $200. And then there are some tasks that are highly valuable and you're the best qualified person in your law firm to do them. And thus
Mm-hmm.
you do them, but you don't love them. And then there are tests that are
Necessary evil.
highly necessary evil. And then there are tests
Yeah.
that you love to do and they have very, very high value attached to them and you do them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to analyze it, I think then you would go through all the buckets and be like, within 6 months, my life is going to be radically better if I outsource all of these
Mm-hmm.
and keep this. And this is exactly what our business advisor, Alex, does. He's like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't do anything that I don't love. And everything that he does has an incredibly high value per hour spent,
Mm-hmm.
incredibly high. So when he advises us, this is like he calls it his lowest yield per hour, but
Yep.
he's like, but I do it for a different reason. So he charges his students $500 an hour. That's the
Mm-hmm.
least that he makes per hour. He's like, I don't do it for you, I do it for me. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why do you do it for you? And he's like, because when I teach you about business, I become better at business.
Yep.
I process my thoughts by speaking them out loud. And then I figure out sometimes when, like, Lindsey, before you and I hit the record button, we had some different level conversation on some personal subject. And
Mm-hmm.
then we turned to business. And I'm like, oh, I never thought about that for my business. And I think there's like a great takeaway there. So this is what he does. He has a handful of students, business
Mm-hmm.
owners, highly productive, high value businesses. He's like, I teach you. And in the process, I learned something myself and I improve my business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool.
So I think that this also has a teeny applicability to personal life as well. And one of the things that I am constantly justifying, or maybe not, but I get a lot of flack from my close friends and family, is I have a laundry service. I have done the math on my hourly
Oh my God.
rate compared to doing laundry.
Yeah.
And so on Tuesdays, I send my laundry out for the kids and I. And it's a game changer. I've been doing it for several years off and on. But I can't imagine not doing it because it just makes life so much easier. And this doesn't mean I don't still do some laundry. I definitely still do a lot of things as well. But the bulk of it and all the folding, and if anybody has kids and you know that folding kids' clothes is like, let me put forks in my eyes. So that alone that's a game changer on the delegation, where it's like, it doesn't bring me joy. I'm happy to send that out.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And circling back to the idea of wearing a GoPro on your forehead or on your chest and recording everything that you do, if you broke it down over a course of 2 days, you can predict how much money you're going to make in 2 years and in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the average of the value of the tasks that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all there is to it. So if all of the tasks that you do on hourly basis are worth $500, you're going to make $1 million. Why? Because that's what it's
Mm-hmm.
worth. About 2,000 work hours per year times $500, you get $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
If they average $70, you're going to make 140,000.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
If they're worth $100, it's going to be 200,000. Why? Because it's math. That's how much those tasks pay.
Yes.
If you do that,
Yep.
that's what you're going to make. So it's really, really, and the guy who taught me this, I was sitting at a conference circa 2012, 2013. He was this incredibly successful orthodontist. And he is like, this is how I break down my time. And he was young,
Mm-hmm.
super young, like 28, 29, recently got out of dental
Wow.
school. Incredibly successful, like out of the gate, just incredibly successful. And he is
Hmm.
like, this is how I look at my time. So Dr. Berson of Kansas City, at the ripe age of like 34, 35, he sold his practice, orthodontal practice, for 40 million
Hmm.
bucks.
Wow.
Why? He never did shit that was worth 20 bucks an hour. Never.
Yeah.
Or 50 bucks an hour, or 100 bucks an hour, or 200 bucks an hour. And again, to that point, like, yeah, but he could afford it because, like, no, 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 no. He got there because he delegated.
Hmm.
That's why I love the name of your company so much. Like Delegate.Legal. I'm like, okay, I know what they do. I didn't know
Yep.
that you specialize in trademark and copyright. Explain why you only focus on those two practice areas, at least for now.
Yeah. So for now, and when I started the business, it just made sense because I feel so much pride in the business that I've created, that I really am only very knowledgeable in trademarks and copyrights. And so I'm nervous about adding on real estate or wills and estates or family law because I don't know enough to feel confident in supervising. So then I would have to find essentially a managing paralegal to then handle that practice area, to then hire the team members in there. Um, I do think if and when I get ambitious enough to develop the business further, because I think the name lends itself to any number of things in the legal space, I'll have to go find subject matter experts. But for now, we've tried to add other areas. It just comes down to the supervision. I just can't, because I don't know those areas well enough to know what I'm supervising. If something happens or they screw up, um, right now I don't have the ability to manage that.
Good luck with the expansion because it seems like the name and what you already do just naturally lends itself toward expansion
Mm-hmm.
into other practice areas. And I think when you do within 6 to 12 months, I've expanded multiple businesses, so I'm talking somewhat confidently because of that experience. And then within
Yeah.
6 to 12 months, you'll be like, oh, this is easy. It's
Goals.
just,
Yeah. I
yeah,
see. I think this is when I need to flip the script, and I need a business advisor that says, okay, what do where do you start first? I haven't had any outside funding. So part of me is like, okay, well, to do that, then you have to think about the financials behind it and bringing on that person who's taking a leap of faith of their own. So the entrepreneurial wheels are spinning. They just haven't quite hit that pavement yet, but they're spinning.
yeah. And by the way, I am in huge favor of specializing in something rather than going broad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just there are certain markets within the legal industry that
Mm-hmm.
are going to present substantially larger opportunity, I assume,
Mm-hmm.
than where you are right now. And it's just an assumption.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had a good marketing approach toward attracting those prospective law firms that you could serve to, I think that could lead to a large, very successful business. Not that it's not successful. We talked some numbers before we hit the record button. I know you're very
Right.
successful, but it could like exponentially grow the business.
Yeah, and I think that I think I've also had those thoughts. I think it's what does it take, and it's really also a leap of faith on my part as well. Deciding what that's going to look like, and at what point am I ready to do that?
Yeah, but it sounds like you already took multiple leaps of faith, like with this business, right? When you started
I've
it,
taken a few.
like I'm sure working in private equity as you did before October of
Mm-hmm.
2020, that was probably very steady. That probably had a substantial paycheck, and you were probably very comfortable doing what you did. Yet here you are.
Ish, yeah.
Yeah. So whenever you're ready, take that leap of
Yeah,
faith. You
yeah.
know, that the most successful people, when they talk about taking a leap of faith, they usually say like what's his name? Bezos of Amazon, Bezos,
Mm-hmm.
however you pronounce his last name. He had an amazing job on Wall Street when he decided to start Amazon. And his decision making criteria, and if you don't know that story, and if you're listening and you don't know that story, there's that element to it. So he didn't wait until the year's end when a huge bonus was due to him. He
Mm.
started Amazon mid-year, and his boss took him out for a walk in Central Park in New York, and he's like, Jeff, just think about it. What
Mm-hmm.
are you doing?
Yeah.
Some stupid online store selling books? You have a humongous bonus coming to you, and you're about to quit this. That's irrational. And Jeff's thinking was that, okay, if I try it and fail, okay, at least I know that we'll try. But if I
Mm-hmm.
don't try it, I may always regret that decision.
Mm-hmm.
So he took a leap of faith. My God, selling books online, what a stupid idea.
Yep.
Uh,
I think it worked out pretty
it worked
well.
out pretty well, you know.
Yeah.
It ebbed and flowed in different ways over the years, but it worked out really well. So I always like
Mm-hmm.
am in favor of taking uh, leaps of faith. Definitely. My partner and I talk about acquiring other businesses, and just this morning, I was like, well, if we bought a business that size, I'd crap my pants. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I wouldn't. No, come on.
New adventure.
New adventure, right? And all of those adventures can fail, but
Yeah.
I think you have the right elements, and it sounds like you're a very systematic person, right? So I think that it would probably work out better than anyone can imagine. Maybe.
Yeah. Leap of faith.
Leap of faith. Okay. So super interesting. You mentioned that for some of your clients, you talk about efficiency gains.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? And I know people who start any business, including law firms, efficiencies are super important, but we often do not
Mm-hmm.
have time to focus on those things. So, like, what do you do there? How do you help?
So, one of the biggest efficiencies that we do is docketing for our clients. So, docketing, as I mentioned, is super crucial, but it's not just as simple as adding dates into a software that then reminds you. You also have to stay on top of the clients and sending out reporting letters and sending status updates. And so, those take an enormous amount of time. And so, we really work with our clients to get templates put in place that they've signed off on. And then we handle a lot of that for our clients. So when a notice comes in from the trademark office, we are already turning it around to report it to their client. And that attorney has seen the notice, but there's no touch point there. So they're not having to worry about taking time to look at it. It's just done. And a lot of our clients bill on a flat fee model. It's something somewhat unique to the trademark space, and that the entire trademark application to registration process is very formulaic. And so you can mostly put a price on the whole process with a few caveats. But because of that, when you have a flat fee, you're not worrying about the point ones or point twos that you're billing. You want to, if you're charging your client $2,500, you want to do everything you can to retain, 2,000 of that or 1,500 of that, whatever it is for your bottom line. And to do that, you have to have efficiencies. You have to just get those templates on those letters sent out the door. You have to, have the docketing automated. If you probably have a bookkeeper that is getting those invoices out, maybe not. So we work a lot with our clients on that. And then also intake. When those inquiries come in, and this looks a little bit different for every client that we have. One of the things that we really encourage is that you've got to charge for your initial consultation. And not everybody does it, but if you think about it, the client gets on the phone and they're spending 15, 20, 30 minutes with this potential new client giving away the secret sauce, and then the client doesn't retain them. So at least if the client doesn't retain them, but they've paid a consultation fee, you're getting something for your time, because you've got to get compensated for your time. And then when you get that intake, what does that look like? Does it go into a CRM? There are several on the market that have that option. Then there are others that have been retrofitted. So it's really client specific on how to do that and look at their systems. And everybody likes different systems. There are so many choices, right? Legal CRMs are a dime a dozen at this point. Some work better than others. So it just depends on what you want. And we kind of help all that get set up.
So I'm interested about the numbers. You mentioned $2,500 flat fee.
Mm-hmm.
Let's imagine that I'm one of your clients. The work that your firm would do for me, like how much of the $2,500 is it going to eat up?
Average maybe 500 to 800 of it.
Got it. So call 20, 30%, give or take.
Yeah.
How much time is it going
to
save?
So I operate in the rule of 3. I don't know if you guys, if that's one of the things that you also talk about with your clients, but I, very early on in my career in law firm life, got hung up on the rule of 3, right? The hourly rate that I'm making sitting that butt and seat at the law firm, then you've got to multiply it by 1 for the overhead, and then you multiply it by another for all of the additional overhead. So rule of 3. So the hourly rate that I'm getting paid is billed out 3 times to the client. And that tends to be how I operate or how I look at things as a general rule.
Got it. I don't think about it in those terms. I would like that number to be higher.
Okay.
Significantly higher, like 4.
Okay.
4, which would make it 33% higher.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are so many other things that happen that go into the cost of delivering the service. So that it's just like one element of production, called production, is not the whole thing. But that number makes sense. So how much time do you think you would save your client by doing that work for those $500 to $800 per case?
It depends on the client, but I will say the trademark office just updated their systems and they are really not user friendly. So now, because we know how to use them so effectively, now we're saving our clients a ton of time. And honestly, we should probably raise our prices because these systems that we know so well are not user friendly for us either. And they take us an enormous amount of time. So that's certainly a takeaway and a conversation that I've been having internally. But so right now, when it comes to completing the full process, we save our clients probably, I don't know, I would say maybe 8 to 10 hours over the life of a trademark application.
Got it. So it's an easy sell. Very easy sell. So if it's 10 hours, got it. No.
And it's not, and I have to keep reiterating this because it matters in the big picture. They definitely have to supervise us. We're not operating out here without supervision and, in a world of chaos, but it's a lot more efficient to supervise and check in and provide feedback than to create the original work product, which is a lot of what we're doing. We're doing the drafting. We're getting it all set up for them to then look at and sign off.
Makes sense. And you mentioned that all of your employees, all of the people who work there are US based. Is that correct?
Yes. Everybody that's on my team is US based.
How do you reach such an amazing efficiency?
Internally we use Slack. That's, so we are in constant communication, and I've actually got team members all over the country. I've got the Northeast, I've got Virginia, Florida, Arizona, Seattle. Trying to think if I'm missing anybody. But yeah, so we're all spread out on different time zones. So Slack is our main form of communication. It's just easier, and then you can send somebody a message. We rely heavily on Clio, which is a pretty well-known at this point law firm management software. And just as much as we can do cloud-based. It's, we do check-ins when we need to, but that's, we just kind of make it work in a virtual environment. That's all we've ever been.
And my understanding is that from day one, you've been growing organically, meaning just word of mouth.
You mean for clients?
Yeah, to add.
So we've kind of been up and down. So initially, let me say that we've never done paid marketing. Mm-hmm. We've had, Instagram, like a social media person. but it's a lot of word of mouth. And for a long time, we were fortunate enough that we only accepted clients through referral. We've since changed a little bit, but not a ton. I mean, unless you've called us and said, "Hey, I received your name from somebody else," we don't typically get in clients. And we find, honestly, the clients that are referred to us are much better clients. They have skin in the game. They know what they're doing. They've heard good things about us, and they're not questioning what we're doing. Like they just seem to trust us out of the gate, which makes our lives much easier.
They come pre-sold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Let's say congrats on your success. I mean, this is an amazing journey in short, less than 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up on
Thank you.
years.
It's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Where do you see this going in the next 5 years?
That's a good question. I think originally I started it as a 5-year plan. I don't know why that was completely arbitrary. I think eventually I would like to sell. I think that the name in and of itself has some serious legs behind it, and the Delegate.Legal name could do a lot. I own the trademark. I own the domain, Delegate.Legal. So there's so much potential there. I can see it. I can scream it. I know what I want it to be. Whether I take it there or somebody acquires me and takes it to the next level, I think is anybody's guess. But, I definitely could see some serious expansion in some way.
Really interesting. So maybe somebody who is listening or watching this episode, they're like, maybe I do want to branch out and add to my law firm a complementary business, because this would be a complementary business, and then grow that. I think if I owned the law firm, this business would make sense for my company to acquire. We're in the same industry, but very different space. Like I wouldn't know exactly what it is that you actually do.
Right.
Because we have
and a lot of what we do requires a human touch. So we were approached a few years ago about an acquisition. And honestly, at that point, a lot of what we did and still do isn't heavily automated, right? There are systems and it's efficient, but it still requires a human being to go from point A to point B. And so I think that will change. And so I could see a computer company, a software company coming in and saying, "Hey, we found a way to make you more efficient, but we still need you, and we still need your, like, basically the face, right, to sell it and the name and all the things." So I think it could be a complement to a software company as well. That might already be it probably is in the legal space, and they want to start offering additional managed services, which seems to be, in my experience, the next wave of software sales is the add-on of the managed service. But to do the managed service, you still have to have the human capital. So if there's a partnership there that makes sense, I think that's a conversation worth having as well.
You ever see AI replacing people in what you do?
I see it replacing attorneys. Maybe not fully, because somebody still has to train the AI, and you have to, I see job postings all the time for train AI to talk about trademark law or whatever. Do I see it replacing paralegals? I'm not sure, because I don't think you get to a world where, until the entire legal life cycle is completely overhauled, you're still going to need paralegals to do the filings, probably a little bit of client management. I don't know how you really get AI to handle client management, especially for clients that might need a little more high touch. But I do see AI becoming a huge part, for better or for worse. It already is in the legal field, but getting more so.
Yeah, absolutely. We see the same thing. Like we see people, consumers and businesses, using AI to perform certain things that like only an attorney would do before. But is it done well? Yet to be seen.
Exactly. I think the case law, right. Well, and there was the one case where the attorney used AI and it cited to non-existent cases. So until all of that is fleshed out further, I don't see the replacement coming. I've just started to dabble in using ChatGPT. I had to write a speech last fall, and I used it to write the speech, and it was very well received. And the person that I was doing an intro at a family golf scramble, and the person that I wrote it about to introduce him just loved it and wanted a copy of what I wrote because it was so well received. And I made no, like, I fully said I wrote this using ChatGPT. So I think it absolutely serves a place. I've personally been really late to the game on it. I've just been a little unsure of it, but I'm getting better.
Well, listen, ChatGPT is only used by 400 million people every week, so it's not like you're
No
totally
big
late.
deal.
There's the whole
Right.
other 7.6 billion that don't use it.
True.
So somewhere in the early stages, and I actually don't know what's the usership of Google AI that's built into
Ooh.
Google, but it's incredibly high. Like
Yeah, interesting. I've not used Gemini.
huh?
I've not used Google's Gemini yet.
So there is AI overview that's built into Google. So if you search for anything on Google,
Mm-hmm.
there is about 1 in 8%, 1 in 8 chances, so about 12% that the result that you get is going to have an AI overview. So
Okay.
you don't ask for it, but it's already there. So
It's
there
already there.
are
Okay.
hundreds of millions or maybe billions of people that see AI generated responses in Google without asking Google to show them AI generated responses. It's just there.
Okay.
And then there's obviously Gemini, which I use both. I use both ChatGPT and Gemini, and both of them are wrong from time to time. And it's fun for the utility
Yeah.
that it has, and at the same time, because I operate a marketing company,
Mm-hmm.
as of the time of this recording, middle of May 2025, a small percentage of leads and clients come through AI. As of today, may
Mm-hmm.
that change in the future? It may, but
Right.
for right
Yeah.
now, it is small. So most consumers, businesses, when they need an attorney, they still do
Mm-hmm.
not use ChatGPT to go like, hey, help me find an attorney. Not how it's
Mm-hmm.
done. So higher level decisions still will require Google and sitting there and reading reviews
Mm-hmm.
and this, and that. And so that's all there is to it.
Well, an AI can't go into a courtroom to argue.
Right.
So that's also part of it. I mean, you still need
Sure.
that human capital.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but we live in interesting times. So
Yes, we do.
we'll see if we are to do this podcast again 5 years from now. Things may be radically different. But
I'm confident that's true.
I am excited to see how your business evolves over the next 5 years. I'll be watching.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for sharing the insights, being here, and Delegate.Legal.com. If you're in the space,
Just Delegate.Legal.
Delegate.Legal. I misspoke.
Yep.
Delegate.Legal. Awesome brand.
Yep.
Awesome
Thank
domain.
you.
Check it out.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.